What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Win-Win Effect podcast, presented by Winject Studios. I am your host, Chris Ross, and if you're new to us, welcome. Really excited and blessed to have you here for the first time. The outcome that we're after in each episode of this show is to introduce you to as many people as I cross paths with to inspire and help you, our listeners, to manifest anything you want out of life. How I go about achieving this is one heartbeat, one mission, one outcome, that's success. Our featured guest for this week is one very close to my heart. It's a person that I've come in contact with over the last year, and once our frequency and our energy met, we have been in communication daily since that moment. Mike Diamond is a TV personality, director, life coach, interventionist, creator, and founder of Diamond Fuel. For the listeners that are tuning in the United Kingdom, keep calm and stand fast, my friends. It's coming soon. He is also a future international best-selling author for his upcoming book, and it will be flying off the shelves in 2021 just because everybody had to go back inside, stay at home in 2020, and deal with their own problems themselves. Rather than me rambling on trying to hype this up, I'm not Flavor Flav. Let's go ahead and kick this up a couple notches and have some fun. Enjoy today's show.
This podcast is part of the Winject Studios network, where podcasters come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how to apply to join the network, go to www.winject.com. That's WINJECT.com. If you're ready to make a difference through podcasting, then we're ready to see you there.
T-minus 30 seconds to lift off to another freaking vibration. Mikey D, what's shaking, Bacon?
What's going on, my brother Chris, Mr. Christopher Ross?
What's good, man? I mean, I feel like it's kind of like funny. It's like we were about to hit record on this thing, and obviously, you know, and I appreciate you coming on. It does mean a lot to me, and I never want to overlook that, no matter how close we are as friends. But I've been looking forward to this moment of really like going into your story and sharing this for our listeners and all the other conversations that we have, we should be hitting record on, because T-minus 30 seconds, boom, we're in another frequency in another zone, and we're in outer space, because people have no idea what that actually experiences and feels like. But for the most part, I guess we can kind of kick this off, and maybe if someone doesn't know who you are and what you're about, what your story is, and the impact that you make with, oh man, hundreds and probably millions of people nowadays, how do you kind of describe yourself to someone that maybe doesn't know who you are and what you're about?
It's a good question. So I'd say I'm an author, because I write books, interventionist, and a motivational speaker. And when I say interventionist, it's like, of course, I work with drug and alcohol, right? I work with high-risk people, but it's really like you do. We try to intervene when people are making disempowering choices. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't just stick to addicts, but, you know, because we do so much coaching beyond that. So it's just like, you know, unfortunately nowadays people need help. So wherever I can be of service and jump in, and I use a rule. It's the 3 G's, right? I go to the person wherever they're at. I gather information. And once I gather their information, I try to guide them to make a more empowering choice.
Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. Some people think that, you know, when you're having that life or death type of moment, and yes, they only seek the ones that they really feel in their heart and soul that can help them because of maybe past experiences. I mean, obviously, you've lived a couple different lives way before the Mikey D today, right? So, yeah, like you got, and we can talk a little bit about, you owned a bar with one of the, you know, the best, you know, guitarists ever, you know, slash if people don't know who that is. I guess, you know, living that type of different life and experiencing what you experience on the bottom, back from broken, obviously the book that's coming out soon, which I cannot wait to, you know, read, because I know that if any much so now than 2020 is giving people a clear vision, but it's also giving people a hole to go hide from their unresolved problems and issues. They may be drinking alcohol, numbing the pain through drugs, whatever, stimulants, whatever is going on in their life. You're needed more now than ever, brother.
I was going to say one thing. I actually owned the bar with Scott Weiland, and Slash used to come and hang out.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
So I want to make sure that Slash doesn't go, hey, wait a second, I don't own a bar with you.
Well, I just think he was in a mix.
You know, the hardest thing is, when you say I've lived many lives, I have. Like, come from Perth with nothing, the most isolated capital city in the world, moved to America, started using drugs and alcohol at 12 years old, mentally and physically abused all my life, undiagnosed dyslexic. I mean, when you really start to look at where I came from with no internet and no resources, and landed in America with nothing, to what I manifested by being authentic, the biggest problem is this. I didn't know my worth, so I would accumulate a lot of stuff, material shit, whether it was bars, whether it was TV shows. I mean, I was part of Miami Inc. I did New York Inc. I did Bondi Inc. in Australia. I didn't understand the work that needed to be done daily, spiritually, that you do. Do you know what I mean? That the day in, day out grind beyond the talent.
Right. 100%.
So I would have moments, and those moments were great. Like, I could get a big audition or open the bar or do these cool things, but I didn't understand the repetition back then, because I didn't understand I was an addict, and I didn't know I had dyslexia until, I got sober in years later. So it's like the work we do now, like, we can get on a call at 3 a.m, and 3 for me, and then obviously it's different times than where you are, and we can connect on shit that people, honestly, it's not being a dick, would take 10 years to understand.
Yeah, your mind needs to be impressionable to have that kind of conversation, to really understand the intentions of why you're saying what you're saying in that present moment. And you need to be 100% present to be able to experience that type of gift of understanding what you are saying and what you're really meaning behind all the amazing conversations that we've had. I mean, this is kind of like, just my main thing is when I'm having interviews with people, sometimes I'll do a little test and see what they know and see how much work they put in for me to put forth that much effort into the interview. Because I don't know if they're actually on that type of frequency to understand it. And sometimes when I say things, it goes right over their head. And I'm like, and I have to pull it back for the listeners to really take in and grasp what I just talked about. So you mentioned 10 years. And from our conversations that we've had, and I'm grateful for every single second that we have spent together and invested that time, because the reason why we spend so much time of actually putting in that work and having our conversations, because our minds are impressionable to really understand and grasp and feel what the other person is communicating on that frequency and tuned into that station. But you have to put in the work and that daily grind on what you mentioned. That daily grind of shedding all these layers and getting to the true and core and essence of who you are as a person. People think they need everything externally. You need to seek internal to fix all that shit. Why do you think people waste all that time before they go and start putting in that work? Maybe is it the universe putting them in a situation where they're forced to change? Or is it maybe they have it, or maybe it's just about being exposed to that other way of thinking?
It's a really good question. I think look, I wish we didn't have to suffer to make change.
Right.
But when people suffer pain, unfortunately, some people fight, flight, or freeze, they run. Some people can sit in the adversity and actually say, okay, I'm feeling this pressure, I'm feeling this pain, I have to make something. What is the cause? For example, when the pandemic hit, people got offended when they were told to go inside, but they were really told to go inside themselves and figure it out. This wasn't a personal pandemic. We were affected personally, but it wasn't the Mike Diamond, Chris Ross pandemic. So I think the hardest thing to do in any kind of spiritual, talk about emotional intelligence, you're talking about being self-aware. But I think the hardest thing for people to do is to take responsibility. Yeah. So if I'm sitting opposite you now, which we both know, I have to take responsibility that I've manifested my reality up until this very point. Yesterday's dead. The future I can create, like we do together. I have to take responsibility to say my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions have brought me to this specific point at this specific time. And that's a tough pill for people to swallow,
Yep.
especially if they haven't gone through the adversity you and I have gone through, especially if they're not willing to get up every day and do inventory and look at ourselves and say, okay, why am I not aligned with my source and my truth? Do you know, and come back to that every day. And it's like,
Wow.
I said to someone the other day, you know, what people don't get is mastery becomes boring after a while. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you know, what makes Floyd Mayweather so good is he will go back into the gym every day and throw a jab. He won't say, well, I've been jabbing for years. What's the point in jabbing? No. A true craftsman, a true master understands that once you master the basics, it does get a little boring, but every day you're going to feel different. That's what separates an amateur from a professional. Right?
Wow.
The ordinary from the extraordinary, right? If you want to be extraordinary, you've got to do a little extra to the ordinary, right? And that's why we say pleasure and pain, right? We're all trying to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So if you know how to rewire your brain on what you associate pain and pleasure with, then you can master anything, because that's, look, the Navy SEALs are simple, right? I've got a good friend, Brett Gleason, that was in Bud's class 235, Embrace the Cycle. I'm going to connect you guys. And and, you know, it's like, if I take away all your food, you're going to starve. If I deprive you of sleep, you're going to be tired and angry. Okay. Then I'm going to freeze you to death, make you cold, which is really uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to see how bad you want it.
Yep.
But by putting you into that state. So you don't have to be a badass when you walk into the SEALs, because you have to figure out how much purpose you have. You can't get through that on, I was good at high school, or I know someone. No, you're in the belly of the beast. And I think that's the work that you and I think some people understand it naturally, but I think some people can be taught it if they're willing to surrender.
And you just hit that landmine right at the end of it. Surrender. I'm willing, and yet I know we've had a other conversation that's very similar to what I'm about to mention. I am prepared every single day to destroy the version of myself today so who I can become. And that might sound shocking to certain people, like, well, damn, he's done this, he's done that, he's done this. And the next thing they're going to say, and these broke-minded motherfuckers are going to say this. They'll go, it's easy to say that when you have the money that you have. And they're like, no. It's harder to say that. I'm 100%, bro. I'm willing to destroy the version of myself at this moment for the version of myself and who I need to be and who I should be and what I am creating and manifesting today. Like, that's why I don't seek externally for anything. Our first conversation, bro, we were talking about a deal, and 30 seconds into the conversation, we're like, all right, we're partners. Let's move this way. Because we're on that frequency, we're on that level of thinking. We don't need to have those stupid conversations.
You just nailed it when you just said, you're prepared to destroy yourself. And I think that's what people don't understand. If I get up, right, and I say, all right, I ran 150 days straight, which I did, 10 miles a day. If I never run again, it doesn't matter what I did for those 150 days.
Right.
What am I doing this really fucking second? I noticed that when I would go to, like, a friend of mine did yoga, and she took me to Bikram yoga, and it's like in the middle of August in New York, and we're stretching, and it's really hot, and people would come out of yoga angry, and I was always feeling good. I was like, why would you spend 90 minutes in a yoga class stretching the shit out of yourself and be mad? Like, that's not the point. Is to you know what I mean? The practice. You're not getting the practice. And I think that basic element of me getting up, like I get up at 3:30, right? My body tells me when to get up between 3:30 and 4:30. Usually it's around 3:45, 4. I get up. It's the same shit every day. I fucking stretch. I read. I meditate. I work out. I don't take a day off. And you just nailed it. People say that when they get the money, it'll be different. bullshit. You'll never have the money because you're waiting to fucking arrive. You
Right.
never arrive. It's now. I don't do it before, oh, it's January 1st. Let me do it. No, every day.
Everyone's in a gym in a pie eating contest and shit, you know, like, and they don't come back for 4 or 5 days, you know, and they never come back again. So it's it. Once they get a little uncomfortable and they're a little sore, they give up. I'm telling you, this society, and we are breeding weak-minded and weak individuals. They're fragile. They're one breakup away from a mental breakdown and suicide. They're one conversation away from never accomplishing, and then they go and they get bought into the whole identity and they get lost in their own fucking mind for the next week, and they'll have one conversation with somebody and their relationship with that person, it ruins their whole next career. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, what is wrong? Like, listen, everything you ever wanted in life, it comes from here. You are born with a gift. Go find it. It's not my job to tell you what that is.
No, and I think you nailed it. I think people don't listen to their calling because they've either been beaten down too much in early life, right, and they didn't get the fuck away from those anchors, I call them. We're engines. We drive people. Engines drive people. We put air on yourselves. We put air on your tires, right? Anchors drown people. They try to sink them. You get rid of the fucking anchors. I dump so many people because they start talking to me. I'm like, dude, just show me. I don't care how good your intentions are. I want to see your fucking actions. Can you drop the hammer? That's why I was coaching someone one day, and she goes, he means well. I said, hold on. He drinks every night, tells you he's not going to drink, and he fucks girls behind your back. I don't care how much he means. What's he doing?
Yeah, what's he doing? What's he doing when no one's watching? What is he doing when no one's watching? That's where the hard work. That's where champions are made, my friend. When no one is watching you.
This is the best saying. If you don't do the work in the dark when no one's watching, you get exposed in the bright lights.
100%. 100%. That's what, when I'm, people that I meet now, and obviously I expect to meet all these people. And that's why when I'm having conversation, and you can just go off of, your own feelings toward this and your own opinion, if you have one different in mind. But when we met, I was like, how the hell did we separated at birth? I think somehow. Like, I don't know. Like, was I doing drugs like fucking 30 years ago and I wasn't aware of this? Was I at the bar? Like, I felt like I was talking to myself or a version of myself. Like, holy shit. It was amazing.
I believe in past lives, me personally. I believe, I believe we're here for a lesson. And whatever past life it was, whatever city we were conquering, you and I were looking over each other going, hey, we're going to take that. We're going to do this. And then when we met, that's why I think that I always say to someone, look, if you got into someone's car and you wanted to listen to rock and they're playing hip hop, you can get angry at them or you can change the station, right? Or turn it off, right? So when I talk to someone, I know straight away, and I use a thing called the solfeggio frequencies when I meditate, which is 9 different frequencies to make sure I'm clear. So when I start the day, I know in a meditation, when I breathe correctly and do all my stuff, I'll know who to call and who to connect. I literally would send you texts in the morning. I know who to text. Melsa. I did my deal with Sam back to I came out of a meditation and someone sent me a supplement and I called Sam, rest in peace, poor Sam. And I said, I'm going to create a supplement. He said, can you come to my house in an hour? It was 4 a.m. I said, I'll be there at 5. I'm doing a deal at 5 a.m. People are still sleeping and rolling around. And someone said, the best thing someone said to my wife one day, they're like, Mike gets up around 3:30 in the morning. She's like, yeah. And she's like, does he have a weird job? She goes, yeah. His job is to fucking write books and motivate people. He's fucking weird. But she thought,
but she understands that crazy. That's the beautiful part. Yeah.
No. But what she's trying to say is people don't understand. I have to get up and get aligned that early. Right. To be of service and to work with people like you, because the pros, we are the 1% of the 1%. That's just how we are. We operate at that level. And if people don't understand it, it's okay. You could be a linchpin like you and I, or you could be a cog. We're linchpins.
Right. 100%. I 100% agree to this. And it's all about, making sure that you're taking inventory on the things that you do have in your life, what's available, what's not available, and then moving from that. And you're talking about the frequency in the mornings. Like you mentioned way earlier, and you mentioned 3:30, your body wakes you up, right?
Yeah.
I no alarm clock needed, bro. I know when I'm waking up.
Yeah. Golden hour is between 1 and 4 because that's when melatonin in the brain spikes and it's connected to the pineal, whatever you want to call it, the third eye. So I discovered that when I really started to heal properly. And I was like, all right, if I can get up between 1 and 4. And then what happened is I just got so used to getting up between 3:30 and 4:30 and I felt so clear. And that's how I wrote my new book. I wrote my new book after the pandemic hit because I always write how I feel.
Let's talk about that for the listeners if we can. Like Back from Broken, that's the title of the book, right?
It's either Back from Broken or A Dose of Positivity.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're working with it. And the reason why I want to talk about this just real quick is, not so I don't forget, you're working with this publicist right now that's probably absolutely bonkers and insane like us, but on an extreme level because he knows exactly what he wants. He's very demanding. This. There's a certain time that he gets up, and he told you, remember? Yeah. It's like, all right, here's a certain time, and you got all these 10 other bestsellers, but you were this person. You want a bestseller. What did you do?
So this is what he told me. He was straight. So I wrote the first draft in 8 weeks. I wrote 66,000 words. Had a friend of mine do the first edit. Then I sent it off, and CAA wanted to give me a publishing deal. I went with my gut. I didn't like the contract. I called a friend. I called Melsa, and I said, can you read it? Read the book. He said, I'm writing the forward. I said, great. He said, I've got a guy. I said, okay.
Right. You got a guy. Everyone's got a guy, right?
Mafia story. I got a guy. I got a guy.
Yeah.
So he reads it, and he said, okay, here's a question. I said, what? He goes, I'm working with 9 authors. They're all bestsellers. I said, okay. He said, you're not a bestseller. I read your first book. It's really great. It's done really well. I said, okay. He said, you really want to work with me? I said, yeah. And he said, can you take constructive criticism? I said, yeah. And he said, how far can you stretch yourself? I said, really good. I'm good. I can work. I'm the hardest working guy you've seen. He goes, first in the inbox is who I edit first. No excuses. I'm like, okay. Got back the first 6 chapters. There was so much red ink. I literally, and I'm not a negative guy, I wanted to walk blind in front of the traffic. I was like, oh my God. Like, this is no joke.
It's like, what the fuck?
So this is what I did. I always believe everything you do in life is a reflection on, and I learned this at acting school, on the stage. Like, you do the work in the dark, you don't get exposed in the bright lights. So it's funny. It's a crazy story. So I was healing after I ran the 30 half marathons last year and did that Guinness World Record thing, and had bad hernia surgery because I ran with a hernia, and my ulcerative colitis. So I had a stationary bike that I was getting back in shape. Ironically, the pedal on the bike breaks and the seat. So I'm like, motherfucker. So I go see a friend of mine who's a sweetheart, and he's got this fancy bike and this seat and this pedal, and my wife's like, do you want me to, what else could go wrong? Like, my bike's broken now. Right. Like, I'm getting this edit back, right? And I'm like, okay. I said, no. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start getting up at 3:30 in the morning. She's okay. And I call the editor and I said, I think I can do this in 150 days. He's like, there's no way we can edit this book in 150 days. We've got to redo 66,000 words. I've got to go through every word. I said, I can do it. I said to my wife, I'm going to run 150 days straight with the baby. She's like, what are you talking about? She goes, I said, I'll push him 10 miles a day. So I get up in the morning, do my meditation, throw the baby in the stroller, put him breakfast, and run 10 miles. Now, here's the thing. People say time, money, resources. How are you using your 24 hours a day, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't have any money, but I'm service to you and bring you value, you pay me. Fuck resources, be resourceful.
Right.
So I got my phone. I was smart enough, and this is how I write. I pulled up, and I'll show you to freak you out because I know you'll love this. And let me go through here. I pulled up a Word document, and I wrote the book in my phone, would transfer it to my iPad, and use my fucking iPad, go for a run. Halfway through the run, I'm like, oh my God, that's a chapter, or that's an edit, and would always be in the inbox first. So I was getting up so early. And then he called me and he said, are you editing off your iPhone and your iPad? I said, yeah. And he goes, it's fucking genius. Why?
Yeah.
And I said, because when I go for a run, I get clear. I run mindfully. Like I can, if I run,
100%.
I'm so focused. So what would happen is I get these streams of consciousness. I would read the edit, what he wanted me to edit, and then I'd run with it, and it would just come to me really quick because my ego. You got to surrender running 10 miles a day. And I'd go out and then I'd just get into flow, and I got the baby so my wife can sleep. There's no pressure. And it made me realize, like when people say, oh, I need to, be in a fucking cabin with candles. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're never going to get the cabin and candles.
Oh, shit, yeah.
If you can't, you know what I mean? Everyone wants the trophy and the cover of the magazine, but no one's really willing to train like Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman. And that's how I did it. And now we're doing, he's so hardcore. Check that. You'll love this. So I write, we do that, edit everything. He literally, it's an 18 chapter book. He throws 7 chapters away and says, he's like, look, there are the books, but that's good news for you. But now you got to write 5 fresh chapters. So I wrote 5. He would give me a paragraph.
He's challenging you, bro. He's challenging you. And I love getting around people that challenge me.
He pushed me, and this is the best thing. So he pushed me so far, then like a dick, he made me actually print up the whole book, 288 pages. I had to go word for word and proofread my own shit.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick. Let me ask this question for listeners. When I have met some people, and everyone's a bestseller author from somewhere, from dogshit.com or whatever, right? Everyone. They got an ebook and all that bullshit. I've been asked to do books. I'm like, oh, you should write a book. You should do it. I'm like, like, you should get a publicist and then you get a copywriter. I'm not having a copywriter write my goddamn book. You know what I mean? That's coming from here. And I love what you just mentioned, because everyone's thinking, oh, I need a publicist. I need a copy. That's all limiting beliefs and stuff that's projected onto you. It needs to come from your mind and put it on paper and then get it out there. That's how I promote it.
Now, and I wrote my first book, and I did really well. That's how I got this big editor. But here's the thing. He was straight with me. He goes, I ain't fucking ghostwriting this. You got to write the book.
Love this.
And he was so good, but this is what it taught me. I then started writing for Aware Now magazine, and now I'm writing for The Fix, because it allowed me, what I learned in 6 months with him. He even said to me, he goes, what you did in 6 months, most authors couldn't do in 2 years. I said, yeah, there's a window of opportunity you gave me. And I realized that I had to catch up. So I wasn't about to fuck around. Whatever I need to do to catch up, if you told me to rewrite a chapter, I'd rewrite it 6 times. I have to work at that level if I've got this opportunity. Do you know what I mean? Where do you think you learned that type of discipline? As a kid, because I never had anything, and I had to work twice as hard. I wasn't a big kid, but I was a really good athlete. And because I never got the encouragement, I had to figure out, if I came one-on-one with someone, and when I was running, I was a sprinter, and they were better than me on, say, in a race, I would kind of analyze naturally myself and go, all right, what did he do that I didn't do, or what did I do? And then I would never train around people. I'd always train alone. So I would make you think that I wasn't doing anything. Right. I like that. I would never show it. But then when it was game time, I was ready to go. And I think that because I never had the safety as a kid, no one ever gave me the insurance that it'd be okay. There was always a lot of abuse, and you're dumb and you're stupid. And school was pretty scary because I couldn't, I was dyslexic. They'd peel it up. My teacher would grab me out in front of class, make me read to everyone. They'd laugh at me. 100%. I don't know if I told you that, but I'm dyslexic. I can't. I can still remember memories of sitting in class, and they go around the room and they call on me, and I'm like, I would die at that moment. I'm like, oh fuck. Dude. I actually got suspended from school. This kid behind me fucking laughed
And I turned around and I didn't want to punch him, and I hit him like I hit a tomato. His face exploded. Boof.
Yeah, such a.
And I feel so awful, but I wasn't mad at him, laughing. I was mad at myself because I couldn't figure it. You know what I mean? I couldn't speak.
But nowadays, if a kid farts, he's got autism or dyslexia. When we were kids, we were stuck in stupid.
Right? I wasn't diagnosed, bro. I held it back. I suppressed it. I'm like, no, nothing's wrong with me.
Horrible feeling. So I guess it's just something I've had in my DNA to just know that there's a spot. And I know the people that have it, you've got it. I know in a conversation, like I say to people, I don't need contracts with people, contracts to see you in court. I know the people that I want to work with because I just feel it. I'm like, yeah, I want that. That person gets it. And that's how I worked with Belsa. That's why I work with Sam and you. And I think it's just something people don't trust their guts enough. And because they don't know what they're good at and what they're not good at. I can admit, if I get in with like a guy that's a top, you can't fake working with a guy that's edited 500 books.
No, no. And just like I said, you put in the work when it's dark, and you're gonna get shine, get exposed in a bright light.
Yeah, he's fucking Yoda. So when I kind of get a hard on in the sense of when he would give me a rewrite, I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking do this so good. And it was funny because every time I'd send in something, there was less red ink, less red ink, less red ink, and to the point by the last three or four chapters, he's just like, I just have to tweak some shit. And I was like, fuck. Wow. Now, this is the hardest thing now. He's like, we've got to start book 3 in March. I said, okay. Then he's like, could you write book 4? Could we do book 3 in 6 months? And could you be able to do book 4, 2 books next year? I said, yeah, I've got the information. So I said, you're going to have to help me edit it. He said, yeah. And he's like, you need to bang out a book a year. You have to be that ahead of the cycle, 5 books, 5 years, because that's the deal we're going for. I'm like, okay. And then it just tweaked me like, it's like, we're going to get a big published deal. Great. But that's like getting in the NFL and thinking you've arrived. You got to build a fucking career.
Say that again. Say that again for the listeners.
It's like you get into the NFL and think you arrived,
right?
But you've got to build a fucking career.
Oh, yeah, like I want to write. That's what the problem with people. Here's the thing. The problem with people is like, oh, I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. They don't say, I want to fucking dominate in business. Or they'll go, I want to make it to the NFL. But if you said, I want to be the freaking MVP 6 times, and I want to be the best freaking whatever, and I'm going to do it, that's how clear and concise you need to be. But sometimes it's not about you just being on pinpoint. I'll set a goal and a thing, but I'm every day, bro, I'm manifesting a new freaking reality, and I'm setting higher and higher, and I never achieve it. I go past it. I blow way past it. And that's how you're able to accomplish that. You can't just write a book and be like, I'm going to write a book. No, I want my book to be read by the fucking queen.
Yeah. And
like,
I want to, exactly. I want to be able to do 5 books in 5 years. And that's the base. And then drop the hammer and do 5 more. Look, I read a book a week minimum. Now I'm like, I got to read 2 books a week. So I literally time how quick I read, in 60 seconds, and I know I can read about 13,000 words in an hour. So if I can read 2 hours a day, it's 26,000 words. Yep. If you times that, the average book has about 60,000 words. Yep. If I can read about 500 pages a day, that's close to 2 books a week. That's not audio. Now, if I'm commuting, and I'm commuting an hour, average audio book's about 6 to 8 hours, I could get 3 books a week. That's a lot of fucking information. Now, if the average person reads 1 to 2 books a year, and I'm getting, 50, 100 books comfortably in a year, there's a lot of information. I'm going to spew that information out. Right.
Spew information. And also, and another thing for the listeners to understand, do you see how he broke everything backwards down on how he's able to accomplish? That's just taking information in. He's not talking about implementing and going through his own experience through that information. That's the missing piece that a lot of people don't understand about books.
Here's the perfect thing. This is what I do. So this is my strategy, and I taught it myself. So if I read something, if I read a book, whatever the book is, I put a card in the front of the book. If something in the book inspires me, I write the line on the card, right, as a reference, an index.
Like that.
So then what I do is if I'm reading and something inspires me to write my own quote, I go to my phone and put it in the notes and write my own quotes, original quotes, because something could trigger a quote. I'll write my own quote.
100%.
Right? So then I start the structure. Then obviously I have my books in different things. So some are self-help, some are motivation, some are cognitive therapy, some are NLP, right? They're all where I can see them. And I know they've got cards. So if I start a process of writing, I know if I go to the front of the book, the card for a section, I know what inspires me, what quotes, who to reference, what page. And I file it that way. So if I start writing and I'm like, man, search for meaning, I know if I open the book and it says page 36, I'm like, there's a reason I put page 36. That was the quote I was looking for, or that was the story, because I know how my brain thinks. And that way, when I'm reading or when I'm referencing, it reminds me I can go back. And I always write down, I have a list of all the books I've read, the books I want to read, and I add to that list. Right now, I've put away, I think, 200 books since 2017 read. Now, I was reading before, but I reread some stuff on purpose, because rereading it now, back in 2017 to now, it's just a different philosophy, a different perspective.
Right. Yeah, different. It's a whole different. You've grown, right? Yeah. And your mind's going to be more impressionable to something that you missed.
Absolutely.
That you weren't impressionable to. Yeah, love it.
And then what I do is I do there's a very famous man called Lasanoff. And what Lasanoff did is he taught kids the Quran. He was a very smart man, and he realized if he slowed the brain down to a theta brainwave, he could then put in the autosuggestion. If you know, in the first 7 years of life, you're in a theta brainwave. That's why the subconscious mind is 95% and the conscious mind is 5%. So what I did is I took Lasanoff's technique and I studied that he used a certain Mozart concerto. I would play the Mozart concertos, which would relax me as I'm reading. Then I'm gathering all the information because my brain is in that auto-suggestion mode naturally. I'm not in a beta brainwave. That's why.
And I talk a lot about this, and just for the listeners to understand, because I talk a lot about this. That's where that neocortex, when is going over, he's slowing down time. That's what he's doing. He's slowing down time to be more proficient and be more effective. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so then what you do is, when I say to people, you can hack your own brain in a positive way. When you first wake up in the morning, you're in a theta brainwave. When you first go to bed, when you go into bed. So that's why those 2 times of the day, you could put in good order suggestions, read. So when you get up, you start programming it. And that's going to, law of attraction, like attracts like. It's going to affect the reticular activating system of the brain. So you're always going to be on the search of what you program. Do you know what I mean? And
no, 100%. I just want the listeners to really grasp that, because I talk a lot about slowing down time. And I'm like, okay, when do you work on yourself?
If you're not working on yourself, someone else is working on you.
Yeah, exactly. You're being controlled, bro. I don't want there's nothing is ever going to own any mind, body, or spirit of me any day. I own me. Absolutely. I own me.
You should be, look, I'll tell you, if I wasn't married with a kid, right? And I met you and you're in England and I was here, I'd be like, I'll fucking move to England.
Right. Yeah. 100%. You got to be around those type of people.
This guy, so now we've got Zoom, we're lucky, but I get around the people that I know crush it like I do. I just know the people. I smell it. I feel I'm like, this guy's like me. And then it's the same with the information. It's what you eat. If you're eating the right foods, it gives you the right feelings. It's the same. Foods of frequency and energy. It's the right thoughts. It's the right conversations. And if you start to, look, you can't flourish in life if you don't de-weed the negative.
Got to. 100%. That happens every day. Not on some days, every day.
So this is where people mess it up, right? I go out and I've got a beautiful rose garden. Okay, the potential of those roses is how I de-weed, fertilize, and feed the roses. Mm-hmm. I'm a lazy fucker. My neighbor's not. I look at my roses. I start getting resentful because he's got good roses. Really? What about I do some Deweeding? Why don't I have time? Oh, really? So then you start to look at your life and someone's manifesting good shit. And instead of looking at them and going, well, what the fuck are they doing? How are they thinking? How are they feeling? How are they acting? What are they doing different to me? But what people don't understand is they spend more time hating on the Kardashians or hating on someone that's doing stuff instead of saying, well, hold on a second. They came from the billionaire sperm club, okay? They were lucky. But that doesn't mean they're happy if they're not living with purpose.
There it is right there.
Do you know what I'm saying? So don't worry about other people, what other people are doing. Find your calling. The universe is calling everyone individually. You've got to find that.
Right. I was just on an interview and I was asked a really good question. It's like, you know, after this COVID stuff and after all these things and a vaccine or whatever, and then what's the one thing that you want to do? Or what are you looking forward to? And I was like, nothing. I'm not looking forward to anything. I have everything right. It's whatever. Like I was like, yeah, I can. I mean, well, I want to have this certain restaurant, and I don't seek external for any piece of happiness. And she was like, she kind of didn't know really what to say. She thought she was going to throw me like a curveball or something, and I was going to whiff. Like, nah, I knocked that shit off the cover off the ball. Like, this is what I feel though. Like, that's the beautiful part about what we do and on tune in on that station. You can't. Us walk into a room and people aren't on that frequency, they're going to fucking run.
You know, look, this pissed someone off the other day. A friend of mine, and he's like, 220 is cancelled. And I said 220 was one of the greatest years of my life.
Me too, yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? I said, it could be 220 for the rest of my life. Dude, you can't break me. I am the palm tree. Wow. Look, you become flexible in your mindset. I am the palm tree in a 5-stage hurricane. I bend, I don't break. This is nothing. Nothing.
It's all about being game time. It's all about being game time. Like, bro, like you talked about Navy SEAL and breaking it down to nothing. I've been there. I've been to nothing. I know what it feels like to not feel like you should never take the next step or wake up or take the next breath. I've been in the belly of the beast, bro. I mean, I've looked at my demons in the face and called them a bitch. Like, you ain't shit. I will break you before you break me.
I was doing massive amounts of blow. I was shooting a TV show with Scott Weiland. I looked at Scott. Scott's wife is pretty much out the door. I was like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm going to get sober. No one did intervention on me. No one said to me, go to rehab. 30 days into my sobriety, I got a deal to open a bar and a restaurant. Went and saw a friend of mine. All these people said, don't do it, you'll relapse. I said to a friend of mine, this is what I do. What do I do? And he's like, open the bar and the restaurant. What's the problem? And I said, well, everyone's telling me. He goes, shut the fuck up. He said, are you done with drinking and cocaine? I said, yeah. And he said, don't look at the job. Get the fucking job done. Stop being, right. If you're either going to do it or you're going to be a procrastinator.
Right.
He's like, you're going to relapse if your mind isn't right. Do you want to relapse? I said, no. And he said, open the bar. Here's the funny thing. I opened the bars, never relapsed. I have 15 years of sobriety in April. All my friends, thank you, brother. All my friends that went to rehab, guess what? They came back and relapsed. Why?
I'm looking for a crutch.
And they thought by going to rehab, when they came back, the problems will go. There's a great song. Everywhere you go, you take the weather with you.
Yeah.
It's me, brother. I take that shit with me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's about owning it and taking it all in. Like I'm, you know how like people, I was shared this with someone the other day and talked about like we were sending all our bios. I want to send all the shit that I overcome that could have destroyed me. I'm going to give you all the ammunition and where you can think you're going to destroy me, or I'm going to leave with all my flaws. I think that's what I'm going to leave with all of it. I'm like, now I've disarmed you. You can't do shit to me.
You'll love this. So I started running for Aware magazine, and they sent me this dope little spoon, right? Like this little spoon. And someone said, oh, is it a Coke spoon? I was like, well, and so they called me and they said, can you write a column? I said, well, can I write about the spoon? They said, yeah. So I was honest. I said, look, back in the day, this was a Coke spoon, but now it's not. This is a little spoon to remind me of where I'm from, but also I take spoons of energy and positivity and give out spoons of energy and positivity for people, one spoon at a time. And she's like, can I post that? I said, yeah. I said, I tell people, look, this is the best thing. When I came out, 10 years ago and told people I smoked crack, I did drugs, I owned bars with rock stars, people said, you're crazy. I said, why? It's the truth.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but you should say that for meetings. I said, no. In a meeting, when someone says they're anonymous, that's their business. I don't have to be anonymous, because guess what? When I used to drink and smoke crack and do drugs, every motherfucker had a reason, and they talked shit about me, and they rang me all the time and said, you're a crackhead.
Yeah.
So I can embrace the fact that I'm sober, and I don't give a shit about that. My past is not who I am today.
Nothing matters. That's gone. Only thing matters is right now. As I'm on a call with you, the only thing in fucking life that matters is right now.
Yeah.
Right now. That's
Yeah.
it. And it's kind of like, and I was listening to something the other day, and I was talking about, I think I sent you a message, and I was like, the guy that did that documentary of Russell Brand that I have, he's coming on the show. Can't wait for that one, because it's funny. Russell Brand said it in the documentary, and I consume, I read a lot of stuff, and I consume a lot of content as well. And I don't watch a lot of stupid, mindless entertainment. I don't do it because it's not serving me. So, but once you get to a point in your life and you peel that curtain and you peek behind it and you realize nothing's there, now it's kind of like you're going through life and you're just like, you have to use your humor because everyone is suffering and everyone is doing this. I'm like, just relax, just chill, man. Just go reset, get yourself back to neutral, and go accomplish whatever the fuck you want. Go do it.
Here's a beautiful thing. Our society is so fucking warped, right, that we value things that really have no value on a spiritual level.
Right.
So here's a perfect example. Like Tony Hsieh did a lot of amazing stuff, founder of Zappos, billionaire, really, really good person. Poor guy was suffering with his, drug use or whatever it was, and he passed at 46. It's really sad that no one pulled him aside and said, maybe he's struggling right now, because he was, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, when you face the mirror or you lay in bed, you're only as sick as your secrets.
That's 100%, bro.
Right.
That's 100%. Like, what would you be doing what you're doing right now in the dark or whatever that you have to own that shit. And that was the hardest thing for me, is owning that vulnerable moment and leading with that and like really taking it in and looking at, when you're full of shit. You're full of shit when you're full of shit. And when you didn't study for a test, and when the lights turn on, who's did the work and who didn't do the work. You
get exposed. Yeah, and guess what? Guess what? If you didn't do the work when the pandemic hit, you get exposed, because what do? You spend your time blaming others. You spend your time, I don't talk politics, but I don't care about Biden. I don't care about Trump, because I'll tell you why. They ain't coming to my door, knocking on my door saying, Mike Diamond, can I buy some of your supplement? They don't give a fuck about me. So whoever wins, I don't care, right? I do me. I be of service to people. I help people that are struggling. I give people great information. I test a bunch of shit, and I go, this worked for me. If you're struggling, maybe you try it, maybe you don't. But I'm always looking to inspire, educate, and motivate people, so I can teach them to live their full potential and teach them that they matter, because people matter. Yeah. Everyone matters.
And everyone is precious.
Yes.
Everyone is precious. And I'm just not going to be the guy that dies, and I know you're not, die on a full tank.
Why don't die? What's that great saying? Don't die with the song left inside you.
Right, you got to, man, just fucking experience. I mean, people go, I just want to experience the life of my dreams. I'm like, go do it.
Chris, you'll love this. You'll love this. So when we finished the first edit, I called the second edit. I called the editor, and I said, you got to do something for me. He said, no problem. I said, if I die, he's like, what? I said, shh, hear me out. If I die, you have to make sure this gets published. He goes, I have a deal with you. Of course. Well, why would you say that? I said, I only died in 2017 with my appendix bursting, septic shock. He said, no problem. 1 week later, Sam died, Sam Bakhtiar.
Wow.
And I called him. I said, Sam, I saw Sam a week ago. He's dead now from COVID.
When you sent me that message, it hit home, bro. When you sent me that message, it hit. I was like, damn.
48 years old. The guy built an empire. He took care of his employees. He was like,
he's a good person.
What an incredible human being.
And you never know, man. It's that fast. It's that fast. So I'll say it to you just so not to put this out in the frequency, put this out in the universe. But if something ever freaking happens to me, you're gonna take all the content and whatever, and I'll make it happen. I'll send you a thing to where my team will get it to you. Take all the information I have and just be able to manifest, you know what I mean, and get it out there. Just get it out there.
That's why I'm partners with you. You know why? Because when this hits the UK, Mind Focus Feel, right? And you'll have all the ingredients to all the supplements. If anything ever happens, you just have to print up the
just keep pushing it. And I'm gonna keep pushing it. And your kids and your wife be taken care of. And that's my word. Because it's not about money, bro. And that's the whole thing. You talk about contracts. Just leaves people to court. I got time for that shit. I'm like, I know who I'm gonna do business with and who I'm not gonna do business with. You talk about getting it. So people show that on the screen just real quick. I want everyone to take a look at that. There's your future in the UK. Game over. It's game over. Don't ask me how. Ask me why. You know what I mean? So,
you know, it's like I love. It's like you shake someone's hand. Like I'm old school. Like when Melsa said to me, "We did the podcast. Come on my show. No problem. Let's do a show together. No problem. Oh, do you want to write the forward? No problem. Let me get you my editor. He's written 3 bestsellers of Melsa." And then I call him. I said, "What do you want?" He's like, "From who? You?" He's like, "Nothing. We're friends." Sam, right? I build the ingredient with him. He has his own supplement company. Do you have a lab? Got the lab. I got the ingredient. Went through all the contracts. Got everything done. Sent it to the lab. Took me through the whole process. I said, "Well, how much do you want of the company?" He said, "Whose company?" I said, "My company." He said, Your good company. I don't need anything from your company."
Right, exactly. I don't need anything from, I don't, if you want to get involved, great. But yeah.
And you know what I used to do on purpose? Because I knew so many people asking for stuff. If I got like a nootropic, or we were using like non-psychedelic mushrooms. I got all these mushrooms that are good for health and stuff. I was sending like things like, "I'll try this supplement. Have you tried this? Have you tried that?" And he'd be like, "Well, how much do I owe you?" I said, "What do you mean? You don't owe me anything. This is what we do. We exchange shit." If I tried a new protein, I would send it, "Hey, have you tried this?" And literally, like with you, it's like people don't get that. I live in abundance. I can't take this shit with me. Like I said, you never find a moving van or a U-Haul truck behind a hearse at a funeral.
And I know people have said that, so many times, and people, they still just don't listen to the deep message behind that. Yeah. Like you mentioned, like, let's go in on this business and get it done and get it manufactured, get it moving. I'm like, okay, great. So right from that conversation, I wrote out a whole list of other shit. You send me a message and I'm taking it to another like way of thinking, like, okay, that's all right. He's on that page. He's on that page.
And I didn't even question when I said, "Hey man, whatever you need, I have no problem sharing it with you." Because I knew as soon as I spoke to you, I know the people at my age and experience that I want to be in business with. And I also know the people that I shake hands, I change the channel, I send them love and positivity and hope they get it one day. The people that don't get it, I have no hate.
They're going to come back around. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So they have every year, your options evaporate, some of them. And that's done by the universe taking it away from you because you've had the opportunity. Okay? I'm just not going to be the guy when another trip around that damn sun and me losing opportunities. And I had to suffer from this, that fear of missing out. That was part of the issue that I had. I had to do it all. But then I started realizing I needed to try the right things in my life, to manifest the life to my dreams. And if it doesn't fit into my life or my way of thinking at that time, I let it go.
So true.
I got to let it go. I have to let it go. I'm telling you, man, and I hope people are really grasping all this information, because I know sometimes we can get on a horn and just start talking shit. But that's led me to I never thought in my wildest dreams I own a podcasting network, bro. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. I have over 300 shows right now dying to come onto the network. And because you know why? I'm not charging them a motherfucking thing. $0. Zero. Why? Because I'm going to show them how to make money and monetize, and I'll get a piece of proceeds, uprides, and I'm not worried about all that. I'm here to make an impact with people and serving people in that capacity, and I'm going to do it because no one's going to stand in my way and stop me.
Well, the most important thing that you do, that I realize I do, is we don't focus on why it's happening. We have a why, and we focus on how we can grow. And I think that's the biggest problem with people. They sit in this fixed mindset of pain. And don't get me wrong, we all suffer pain. But
No, 100%.
yeah, it's like, it's...
If you have a revel in it, though. I revel in that pain.
You've got to look, it's like this. This is the biggest lesson that you and I understand, that if I'm working with someone, I teach them. I'm like, every moment you reset.
Yeah.
Yesterday's food doesn't keep you full today.
I like that.
Just stay in the fucking moment. If you make a mistake, be responsible for how you choose to think, feel, and act, and sit in it and say, you know what? Let me reflect back. What could have I done different? Why am I not synchronizing with this person? Why don't, where's my purpose? Where are my values? What are my rules to those values? And then stay the fuck out of the way.
Everything that he just talked about, ladies and gentlemen, had everything to do with the cultivation of silence and cultivation of self-investigation. He wasn't seeking external for any answers. He was asking himself from his own way of thinking and his own frequency, maybe his mind's impressionable to certain things and all the knowledge and stuff that he's gaining through books and conversations with other people, business people. I got to be around the freaking visionaries, bro. I can't live my life and be surrounded by people that are just going to just go through life and be reactive. I got to move. I got time for that shit. I got time for that shit. But I mean, I could talk to you for hours, and we'll continue to keep talking for hours. This one's just for the listeners. But for the most part, I guess if you're anywhere on my listeners, and I'm sure that they're going to be like blowing you up and looking, because I do have a great following, and I'm so blessed. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in for the show. But how can my guys find you? Like, where should they? When's the book? When is it going to be launching? Like, what are some things that for them to take advantage of now?
Okay, they can find me on social media, the Mike_Diamond, on Instagram and Facebook, wherever. The first book is out. It's called 7 Steps to an Unbreakable Mindset. The second book, we'll go back and forth. It'll probably come out middle of the year, because once I deal with the publishers and you give it to them, they do their own thing. Diamond Life, you'll handle that. I don't have to talk about that. And then I do the Recovery Today podcast, which is a pretty great podcast about addiction. I write for Aware Now magazine, and I write for a magazine called The Fix. And honestly, if someone is out there hurt, suffering, struggling, I check my direct messages. I would rather you direct message me than make a disempowering choice. I'm a guy that actually looks at the messages, and if someone really, really, really needs some help, I'll always, always, always give them a positive or a suggestion to help them make a better choice.
That's so great that you do that, because I mean, that pulls you back to the true you, what you're all about. It's like, listen, I'll do anything in my power to help people, but you got to ask me for the help. I can't mind read.
Well, yeah, if someone's suffering in silence, like Yogi from Miami Inc. was one of my closest friends. We spent time together when we shot New York Inc. We back and forth. He killed himself, and he could always come to me. So, you've got to pick up the phone, and don't be afraid. A guy like me picks up the phone, or a guy like me looks at his messages. You know what I mean? I don't like people suffering in silence. I could drop that one seed of hope, or I could tell that person, look, sometimes people just want to know someone cares. And I think it's arrogant not to look at those messages, and I think it's arrogant to blow people off, because we're all just doing the best with what we can.
Right. I'll leave everybody with this real quick. I'll throw this out to Mike just so he agree or disagree. I have not met a uber successful person, and I'm talking about the people that are on the frequencies, and obviously the people that we're in contact with, and when we obviously navigate through, and how many lives that we're saving and changing and making an impact with. I have never met one of those people that kick someone while they're down, or say something rude or mean or whatever, or just hurt someone's feelings. I have never met one. I'm telling you, the people that talk shit and the people that want to hurt someone and like hurt people, right? Right. So you can't do anything about it, man. Just like reach out and let us know what's going on. Like the Robin Williams out there, the ones that are really suffering behind closed doors in those dark moments. Like pay attention to the ones that are a little bit more, I guess you would say, vibrant or flamboyant, or to put that mask on, and it's kind of like dancing that crying clown, right? I used to be that guy when I was suffering. So I know what that feels like.
I mean, I 100% agree with you. And I'll be honest, if someone is doing it for the wrong reasons, they get exposed.
Yeah, every day. Every day. And then sometimes you don't know when you're exposed and you're actually made a fool of. They're not going to tell you. You could be the guy they laugh about when you get off the call. Like, what the fuck, man? I hope he figures it out. I hope she figures it out. Like, does she really think that she's going to get away with this? You know what I mean? Or he think he's going to get away with this of, putting out that book or putting out that thing and him calling himself a best-selling author? Like, don't you know how you're being looked at right now? Why? Go do the work, man. I'll see you next year. So that's all I can really say to these people. Go do the work, and if you want my help, let me know. So we'll go from there. But man, I'm blessed every time I have a conversation with you, my man. I cherish every single last one.
All right, brother. Love you, man.
All right. Love you too, man. Peace out.